Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be continuing with the Road to 2100 series, and this is episode 4, I think, or maybe 3. So if you haven't checked them out, check out the playlist to see the previous episodes. And here we usually play a few instructive rapid games where I give my commentary and you get to learn and watch my horrible blunders. So we are going to get right on the road here with our first 10 plus 0 rapid game. Right now, I think I'm about 1980 or 1970. Yeah, 1977. We have our opponent as my whatever that is. Let's go for e4. Our opponent responds with d5. Let's take. And knight f3. So I like this variation. It's just the plan is to kind of get d4 and c4 in. With knight f3 you can't. And I think like positionally white is just much better here. Black kind of has to figure out how to develop these pieces nicely. Well, white can just autopilot basically d4, c4, knight f3, castles, h3, you know, these kind of things, and easily gets a comfortable position. Even what is possible is 95 ideas if you get to play bishop e3, which we will probably see shortly as our opponent is probably going to castle. Oh no, we get knight d7, so that prevents, not really prevents, but it's not as strong anymore, knight e5. But actually, let's just go for knight e5, because if you calculate, takes here, takes, and now this knight can't go to d5. And after they go there, we can pin and put our knight on d6. This might seem a bit complicated, but in simpler terms, what I'm just doing is that I'm just grabbing space vigorously here, like on all fronts. So if you basically think about it, the more space you have, the better. And our opponent is kind of making dubious trades here, because now think like this. This dark square bishop, my knight really wants to go to d6, right? Because it'll be on a great square. But the bishop is kind of not allowing that to happen. So when we trade off, now there's no competition to this square, and my knight can just easily jump in and secure itself with c5 on this square. Even if they get a trade, it's better for us because we have a passed pawn, which is very dangerous, as we will likely see in this game. Or maybe they can't even trade it off. So black is going for some counterplay, and what you should do is that just put this knight on d6. That's your only goal here, and you need to kind of support this pawn. So anyway, here I think I want to go b4, but the thing is that if you imagine b4 takes, he's queen a5 to double attack. And yeah, that's going to be a problem. So let's go takes. So we kind of lose the support, but we still have the e-pawn. Okay, trade of queens is great here, because now it's even harder to kind of challenge this. So simple threats here, just defend them. Rook was attacking our a2 pawn, we just push it. So now black is just trying to get his knight into the position. Let's play rook f3 and just take all his squares that he can move to. Okay, so h6, this is kind of not a great move here. It's usually when you're getting back rank mated, but here the activity is not mainly there. So let's go rook c1 with the idea of b4 and to take on c6, and let me drink some water. So black is trying to do something, but it's kind of too slow. I can just strike with this. And he should have done this one move before, but of course he had to play the random h6 move, which doesn't do anything. So you should always avoid, people tell you, oh, if you're a beginner, play h6. Just improve and know when, It's a precaution, but in these kind of moments, it's just bad. So in general, just be better at tactics and don't blunder back right mate. If you don't, if you're good at tactics, then there's no need of playing h6 randomly and just losing a pawn like this. And now our idea is rook c7 and rook f7. And see, this knight it's just, this is what I'm talking about. It's just dominating black's position here. Like, it's just, look at it. And now even if they try to do something with that, I can just go knight b5. And this knight just defends everything. And black is just lost here. So mainly the things to take away from this game is to kind of just take advantage of your opponent's weak positional skills, as we saw here. And we just took advantage and we put our knight in the position, and black was just cooked dead. So knight f8, free pawn. So there's no traps here, it's just a free pawn. Black is trying to do something here, but the knight, remember, one horsey cannot do anything to you. Like, it just can't. So let's just ignore that and go for a double. So in double rook positions like this, you should just go for doubling on the 7th rank. And trust me, if you get that without like a major hit to your position that will like make you lose, then you're just completely winning. And especially here, since, okay, even if he gets his trade of, if I go, I can't play knight d6 anymore, but it doesn't matter in this case. Now black is forced to play like rook f8 or f6, which doesn't look great at all. f6, in fact, I have g4 to kick the knight and then attack g7. So yeah, rook f8 is the only move. So now, anyway, okay, no. I was gonna play knight d6, but to kind of trade off and get this passed d pawn, but you have to be a bit careful since the a pawn is hanging. Anyway, I could probably even play it anyway, but let's just play it safe, not blunder anything, like we should play chess, and let's just trade off rooks when we're up material. And basically, we're just playing with two passed pawns. See, the thing about the two pawns is that if they were like doubled pawns, like here and here, still black would have chances. But it's two passed pawns, and what you need to understand is that these pawns have no one to block them, and they can defend each other. So you'll probably see what I mean by defend each other, or they might just resign, who knows. So now people kind of get confused of which rook to take. Usually you should take the less active one, which in this case is this, and also that comes with the benefit that you can just go rook a7 here. And we are in completely winning knight endgame. The only thing that you need to not blunder here is some sort of fork where you lose one pawn. If you lose one pawn, it becomes much harder. But all you have to do is that, now notice what I meant by the pawns defend each other. If there was one pawn, or double pawns, where the two pawns are on the same file, then you could imagine that the pawns cannot defend each other and they'll kind of be clumsy and run into each other. But now, even if this knight didn't exist, these pawns would be able to just prevent the king from taking them. Because if we got a structure like we probably will shortly, so knight e2 you have to be a bit careful of. Here you can just like push, probably, or just go a6. But let's just play good chess and let's just defend the e2 threat. So your opponent probably will put up some resistance, but it's not going to be that hard because they really can't do much. So what you need to do is that you just need to not allow the king to get to b7 here. Because the problem is that here you can't push a5. So you kind of need to create a wall so the king can't access b7. If it accesses c6, just think about it, it's fine, because he can push with b7 and b8. But b7 will be a problem because you can't push and your pawn is attacked and you can't really defend it that well. So now king c8, and now I get this. So anyway, this pawn will hang, but like I said, we don't want to allow king b7. So don't auto take the pawn here. That's a big mistake here. What you need to do here is kind of get rid of the threat. So think about what's the most annoying piece in black's position here, right? These pawns aren't really doing anything. Sure, the king, but you can't really get rid of it with any checks because the pawn cannot access a5. And there you go, bingo, the knight. The knight is stopping this pawn from pushing and making a queen and just removing black's king, which is our eventual goal. So how do we get rid of the knight? We can't attack it with pawns. We can't make another knight attack another knight. And so the only piece is remaining. The only piece that is remaining is the king. So the king obviously has easy access, and there's our answer. We just go walk over. Just don't blunder a 4K. That's the most important thing. You just have to keep on scanning while you do this, so you don't blunder a major fork. And even if they do this, they permanently block. It doesn't matter, because they can't go knight b7 and trade, because at the end we have a5. So just don't be scared. Just shamelessly walk your king over here. And at this point, you can scrap caring about these pawns because they're not going to do anything. But as I said, I'll be a cultured chess person and just play knight c4. Actually, no. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to not do that because it's just harder to do it like that. So let's just move our king here. Because at this point, you have to realize that black can't take because it's just way too risky. The only thing, remember, the knight was stopping the pawns. Now these pawns just march to the end of the board without anything. And this pawn, anyway, if you're worried about it, which you shouldn't be, is restricted by the knight. So black cannot push. Eventually black will have to sacrifice, and we can promptly end the game with some queening or some fancy tactics. I'm just going to pre-move here because people will play here or they will resign. So, yeah, so they played here, and now we can do some fancy things to just win. Now, we can follow up with b7, and now, after they go king a7, knight c8 is a check. There's probably some faster mate here because think about it this way. Actually, no, this is probably the fastest mate. I was thinking of getting the knight to c6, but the king can escape. And now you can just go king c6, and b7 is protected, so you can go a7 next move, pawn mate. So if our opponent is a cultured person, they will obviously just play like knight b7 and allow us to checkmate. Or if they are a bit cultured, but like kind of want to disrespect, they'll go knight c5. If they absolutely are like disrespectful, they will just resign. One of those. So let's see how nice our opponent, whoever that is. And they are just uncultured people. Okay. And they just took like 5 minutes to resign. Yeah. Okay. Let's go for another 10 plus 0 game. Our opponent is 1933. So we got a d4. I like to play the King's Indian. And basically just pre-move g6. Okay, so we get the weird opening. So usually we have d4, e4, f4, c4. That's the 4 pawns attack. But in this position, they don't like play e4. I don't know. Maybe that was mouse slip, but now you have to take advantage of these weird openings your opponent plays. So in fact, they don't even want to go e4. So in this position, you have to think about what squares are weak and what pieces that you want. White's light squared bishop is the major piece in this position because white just put a few pawns on the dark squares, making the light squares weaker. In turn, white's dark squared bishop has mobility issues because it's just going to run into all these pawns. So here you want to get the light squared bishop a trait for the garbage dark squared bishop. But in the King's Indian, you have to think about another thing. Your light squared bishop is also kind of good. So, because the fan shadow structure here is all light squared. So you kind of have to think about just giving up this bishop. So rather you would give up a knight to trade. So also, as I mentioned, weak squares. E4 is weak because no pawns can actually attack that square, and it makes a brilliant outpost for our knight here. In turn, C4 has also been weakened because it can be controlled by pawns. So our knight is great here. So let's think about how we can secure it here. So F5 is a rush move because you have to think about your opponent too, right? They're going to think, oh wait, E5 is weak now for them, and we can attack that square. So rather, use a piece to defend the square rather than a pawn. Obviously, pawns are more secure, but pieces are a bit better. And here, think about prophylaxis, which is just preventing a move. What does your opponent want to do? A3. You might think it's a stupid move, and it is, but they probably want to go B4 and bishop B2 to develop their bishop like this. So how can you prevent that? Easy. A5 to prevent B4. Now C4. So they strike in the center. Don't be scared. Don't take. If you take, you're just losing another defender to your central structure. So here E6 or C6 is the two options. I think probably C6 is slightly better because you, as a rule of thumb, center pawns are usually considered more important than flank pawns. So giving up a center pawn, a flank pawn to be a center pawn is better than just giving up the E pawn to be a D pawn. So they go C5. So what they're trying to do is that they're trying to null our light squared bishop, which is kind of working. But I mean, they don't have anything on this dark squared bishop, and they are doing whatever this is. I'll speed up my play a bit because I don't want to be down on time since they're up like 3 minutes. So here I would rather not trade, but I kind of have to. And anyway, it's not too bad because I leave them with the light squared bishop, which now is good because think of it like this. So I do have to take because I cannot move the knight, since I can't actually move the knight, but I want the light squared bishop gone because it's a good piece for them. So think of it like this. So now, okay, so F5, E6 was kind of required, and now we can just put our knight on the outpost again. And you might be asking, why isn't knight e5 an outpost? Well, it looks like one, but it actually isn't, because an outpost is where the pawns cannot attack the piece going on the outpost. In this case, I have f6 to kick out the knight, which is my major positional asset here. And here we're going to do the AlphaZero. AlphaZero is a chess engine, if you didn't know, and it loves to do this plan with king h8 or king h1 and rook to g1 or rook to g8. In this case, we are black, so king h8 and rook g8. Now they take here, and again, think about what I said. Flank pawns over center pawns. If we played DE, we would be getting a center pawn for a center pawn, but if we played FE, we'd be getting a center pawn for a flank pawn. So obviously here. Anyway, DE also opens options with a pawn sacrifice in D4, which is more advanced, so I won't explain it that much, but basically, our idea here in a positional standpoint is to keep all our opponent's pieces as absolutely inactive as possible, which is happening here. And when they're inactive, they can't really go to defend an attack. And we are just going to take advantage of that and launch an attack with this open G file. We don't care about the pawn here. The pawn is like the least important thing here. You can just sacrifice the pawn and move on, because this attack is just way too strong. You might be scared of, no, my material, but trust me, just trust me, okay? You're just gonna win back that material and even more. So here, rook g3 looks interesting, but just don't go for it because there's rook g2 at the end. So first, let's just play calmly, and let's follow up with bishop h4. So tactics, they can't take because rook g2 is hanging. And now their pieces are just passive, right? And the bishop is doing whatever that is. So now you might think, how do we get our pieces into the game? Because we got all our current pieces into the game, but how do we like make this attack potent, basically? Now think about it like this. So our bishop cannot take here. So what if we replace the bishop with some other piece? And then you'll probably find it. If we put I can't even speak English. If we put our bishop back, and now we go for this H pawn here. This H pawn is able to capture the other pawn without losing any material. So it's a big asset in our position here. Now the only thing you have to be careful about is hanging a skewer on this file. Or a pin. I don't know. Okay. So, you want to play h4 here. I don't know what white's doing. Basically, they're just relying on this trick that takes rook h2. Or actually, they actually try. Okay. So, now what you have to do is that you have to take, but be cautious. Be wary is the right word. Be wary about this rook h2 idea. So here, there's an interesting idea for us. So yet again, we're kind of running into a roadblock with our attack. We can't really do much if you think about it, because white's pieces are, not gonna lie, kind of well defended. What we do with this hg idea is that now g3 isn't defended by a pawn. So now we can go full Uga mode and just try to obliterate their position with bishop h4. Because now this actually attacks the g3 pawn, which was not happening before because h2 was defending it. So now rook h2, so they depend on this idea again, but it's not going to last because I have now rook g3, and yeah, I mean, there's just crushing tactics here, which is, the tactics are, not gonna lie, a bit advanced, but yeah, okay. So our opponent is also advanced, so they just decide to get out of it the easy way, which is just to lose a piece. So see, you kind of have to trust that you're good at chess. You have to trust that sacrificing that pawn, you're not gonna lose that position. You have to just embed that trust in yourself. And if you ever feel that you can't sack the pawn, just like forget everything and just do it. That's my advice. See, like, we sacked the pawn and it came out all well. Now there are some advanced things happening, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just being a bit fancy. We can defend this bishop here, and we can just chill, because these rooks can't do much. I mean, the bishop, it doesn't really even matter. If I just lose it, it doesn't even really matter. So here we can get a pin, and they have to go there. Admittedly, this isn't the easiest position to win, but how you should win is checkmate in one move. I know, brilliant advice. Okay, so we get a rematch. Let's not play 1933 again. Let's get a good player. Let's just check how much time is on this video. Okay. Yeah. Let's play one more match and let's finish off. And remember, quality over quantity. So, playing more matches doesn't necessarily mean that it's better for you. You should play quality matches like I am now, and anyway, you'll gain more elo in the process, which you'll see. Now, I like to play this Italian variation sometimes. I like to play the Vienna, I play many things. Okay, so there is this d4 line, but the more positional line is d3, which I like better. Okay, actually, I just completely messed up there. You can go g5, and actually, this is a really common trap people fall into, which I've not like seen a lot of times. Is g5 and g4, and you actually get a massive attack in Italian. So here, the typical theory is to go h3 and to prevent the bishop coming here. And black plays a6 to shield from the attack with d4. So we're going to play d4. Usually playing d4 early isn't good, but I mean, this guy is kind of not... I mean, anyway, if you see your opponent like booked up here with theory, you just want to do these random things that confuse them. Which, they don't have to be like garbage, like one advantage to your opponent, but like just some subtle moves that maybe makes it from plus 0.2 to plus 0 or an equal position. Because then you get these moves, which are like absolute hot garbage. Because they want you to take, and then they think they're so smart because, I don't know, they aren't smart. But the idea is that here, the idea here is that you can take, and after knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, we have f4, which is this aggressive move that gains space, which is kind of what we want to do here. So now black is actually just, in this case, unlucky black. They're just completely lost because how hard is opponent? 1879. Because we just have e5 next move. Usually, maybe, sometimes there's like some escape square where the bishop can go, but there's no escape square here. You just go straight e5 and fork. So there are these subtle things. Okay, never mind. I just don't know anything about tactics. Okay. Just ignore whatever that was. Okay. We don't win a piece, but we gain massive space here, which is an advantage because it... Well, space is an advantage anyway because it just allows your pieces to move more freely than your opponent's. When your opponent has less space, it's the vice versa. They have less squares to move their pieces, and their navigation becomes harder. And if you're not good at those positions, then you are just cooked. You're just dead because piece coordination is basically everything. So, I kind of yap too much. Yap means talk, by the way. Usually, I don't talk that much, but I just kind of wanted to make this kind of instructive for people rather than just make this like crazy video. I don't know. So now knight h7. So I was expecting knight e8 with the idea to actually get your knight back in the game, but your opponent, if you're low rated, will probably play these kind of moves. And here you have to be kind of very careful because when your bishop is on c4 and you can play queen g4, there's usually these kind of d5 ideas, which hits your bishop and your queen. So to prevent this d5 annoying move from happening, let's just play f5 first. So now queen g4 also comes with more punch because h6 is attacked. Now d5 is the best move here probably to, well, not d5, d6, to kind of break in the center. And anyway, I hope you know this advice. When your opponent attacks on the flank, you should attack in the center, which is completely black's best move here. But black's position is kind of so bad that, I mean, you can just allow this because white has pretty easy play, as you'll see here. And as your intuition grows, you can kind of grade these things. Like, if I go f5, can they go d6? Does it really matter? Because I know that I'm not allowed to well, not allowed. It's not good to allow a center strike when I'm attacking on the flank. But they realized that black's position is so passive is because they can't just generate play. Their knight on h7 is just going to cause problems. White has queen f3 and bishop f4. Fast, easy development here. So our opponent is obviously thinking. And b5. This is what I'm saying. People do weird things. So the idea of b5 is actually pretty, like, even a 1000 could say. Like b5, bishop b7. So bishop b3 is the autopilot move and allows bishop b7. But how can we prevent bishop b7? This is what we call a Zwischenzug, which is German for in-between move, which you should probably know in the future. So bishop d5. So the idea is that yes, we are going to get kicked by c6. And I know a lot of people say, no, don't get your bishops kicked when... Don't put your bishops in positions where they can be kicked. But this obviously rules have exceptions, and this is an exception because bishop b7 now puts the bishop in a completely inactive position. So we're just rendering black's play garbage. And now when they try to be desperate with these kind of breaking moves and try to do something, it's just not going to be useful because now we just have queen g4. It's a slap in the face. Bishop h6 is coming. And anyway, we can just play bishop c2, queen g3, and f3 just subtly. And just boom, they just die. So kind of these not autopiloting with bishop b3 and then allowing these bishop b7 moves is crucial to gain a winning advantage. And now you see we just didn't do these weird positional things, bishop d6. We didn't move our bishop like 12 times. We're just playing some simple chess and just winning, basically. More water, by the way. g6. Now actually, if you, well, I calculated this before, but if you didn't see, bishop a6 is actually free because they can't take on f5 due to a pin. Which, that synced up perfectly. And now they can't take, and they're aside. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you can check out my other videos, which are probably somewhere on the end screen. And please like or subscribe or drop a comment if you enjoyed this content. And if you want more, I also accept recommendations. You can put them in the comments. And see you next time. Now get out of here.